going to get started here. And I just want to make sure that everyone can still see my screen. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can still see my screen? Excellent. So welcome everyone. This is Simple Steps to a Grace-Filled Life, the practice of Ignatian journaling. And this is an initiative coming out of the Ignatian Young Adult Ministries via the Office of Ignatian Spirituality tonight. So before I even say anything else, I want to say a big thank you to Mary Beth Cassidy for inviting me to be here with you all tonight and share a little bit about my journaling practice and some ways that we can integrate our Ignatian spirituality with a journaling practice as well. So my name is Catherine, and I will be your host this evening. I am a freelance writer and speaker. I mostly spend my time hanging out on Substack. If you're not on Substack, you should get on Substack. It's a fun place to be. If you are on Substack, I would love to connect with you there. But I love partnering with Ignatian organizations to do different events or write different articles, mostly because I am Jesuit educated myself. I graduated from Loyola University in Maryland with my degree in theology and have been playing various roles in education and ministry settings ever since. But the one thing that has never really changed about me or my spirituality is how much I love to journal. And I was reflecting a little bit on how that really started for me. And it goes back 25 years to when I was in fifth grade. And I had a dear friend, she and I had matching notebooks. And we did this fun thing where we'd like write each other letters and then switch the notebooks and then write each other back. I don't know if you've ever done anything kind of fun like that with a friend. But then what happened was in sixth grade, I switched schools. And it was really, really hard for me to be away from that friend and to be in a new environment. But that practice of writing to her stuck with me. And so even though our friendship sort of faded once we were not in the same school anymore, I still had that practice of writing to her. And then eventually, as my spirituality grew, to writing to God. And ever since then, it's just been a really important part of my own spiritual life. So tonight, I really want to share some of the things that I've learned in the last 25 years of journaling. And again, like I said before, whether you are a brand new journaler or you have been journaling longer than I've been alive, you are very, very welcome here. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. So here's a little preview of what we're going to be doing together and how we're going to be spending our time. The first thing I'd like to do is just spend a few minutes offering some tips, tricks, and ideas for integrating the practice of journaling with Ignatian spirituality. Then the next part of our time together will be I'll offer you some journaling prompts to choose from. And I really want to give you the gift of time tonight. So it probably, unfortunately, won't be too long. I'm aiming for 10 to 15 minutes, but I really want us to have some time to actually practice this spiritual practice together. And so you'll be able to choose one of the 3 prompts that I've prepared for you this evening. And then at the very end, as we mentioned before, we will pause the recording so that we can have a little bit of a debriefing conversation in small groups. And again, that conversation will be really focused on what the experience of journaling was like for you. If you're comfortable and you really want to share what you've been journaling about, of course, you're welcome to do that, but no pressure whatsoever. I want you to have a chance to sort of step back and think about, how did it go tonight? What did it feel like to be journaling tonight? So if you are an introvert like me and you need a little heads up that you will be asked to share later, consider this your kind heads up, your invitation to think about one word or phrase that sort of describes your journaling experience tonight. So 3 main parts of our evening, and we'll jump in with the first one right now. All right, so one of my favorite things about Ignatian spirituality, and maybe you'll agree if you've been around Ignatian spirituality a lot, is that there's lots of cool buzzwords in the Ignatian world. We've got lots of phrases and concepts and spiritual ideas that help to describe what it means to sort of see the world through an Ignatian lens. And to start us off tonight, I've just highlighted 3 that I think really fit well with the practice of journaling. So whether you are super familiar with Ignatian spirituality or not, you probably know what the word discernment means. If you are discerning a decision, if there's some sort of change in your life you're discerning or a calling that you're discerning, Journaling is a great spiritual practice to come along your discernment because it can sort of help you track your spiritual data. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But I love using a journal to help me in my own discernment process, to help record moments of consolation and desolation so that I can really be confident in listening to the Spirit's voice and also courageous in responding to it. Another part of Ignatian spirituality that I think fits really well with journaling is finding God in all things. Part of my journaling practice, and again, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment, is recording moments of grace or moments of beauty or moments of joy, moments of gratitude in my life. And that can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. It can be a conversation, it could be a meal, it could be a song. And so using my journal to keep a record of those things has been really good for me, especially on hard days. I can go back and check that record and remind myself, no, God is present, God is loving me, God is merciful, God is truth and beauty and goodness. And so I think if you are in a place where you are trying to find God in all things, or if that resonates with you, I'd encourage you to think tonight about how you might use your journal to help you find God in all things. And then the other Ignatian buzzword that I thought goes really well with journaling right off the bat is this idea of being a contemplative in action. So a contemplative in action is someone who prays and works, someone who is connected with God, but also lives out that relationship in acts of service and love and justice and mercy. So your journal can really help you be a contemplative in action because it can help you with the contemplative part, obviously, thinking about the way that God is moving in your life. But I also think that a journal can help you make resolutions for actions you're going to take. That if things are going poorly, or if you're feeling called to serve a certain population, your journal can be a place where you really work out that calling, or you maybe discern that calling, but then you also commit to acting on that discernment or acting on that relationship that you were building with God. So I'm sure that there are many folks out there who could come up with some other Ignatian buzzwords that fit in well with journaling. And if we have time at the end, I'd love to hear your ideas. But these are three that stood out to me right away. And again, if one of them really resonates with where you are tonight in your own spiritual journey, I really encourage you just to bring that into our conversation and our practice tonight and see how that element of Ignatian spirituality might be able to come alongside your journaling practice, and so that both things can enhance one another. All right. So if you're just getting started in journaling, or even if you've been journaling for a while, maybe you've used to journal and you're trying to pick it up again, I wanted to offer a few tips that have helped me sustain this practice for so long. And so the first one is to link your practice to a dependable part of your day or week, or not. So there have been seasons in my life when my journal has been like an allergy medicine that I have to take every single day to make sure that I am not, having an issue when I go outside and I see all the leaves that are turning in my neighborhood right now. But there's also been seasons of my life when my journal has been like a rescue inhaler, and I have turned to it just for one particular day when things are really, really hard or scary or joyful, and I really need a few minutes to write down how I'm feeling. So you are very welcome to journal every single night. You are very welcome to journal once every 6 months. It counts. It all counts as journaling. So that is something that you can discern on your own if you want to try and develop a practice of every day writing down one good thing from your day. That's a really beautiful thing. But if you get to day 3 and you forget, you are not a failure and you are not a journaler anymore. You don't lose your journaler card. So think about what kind of journaler you might want to be in this particular season of your life. And I give you permission to just be that person, whether it's an everyday or a once in a while kind of thing. Another thing that my fellow recovering perfectionists out there might need to hear is that your supplies and your handwriting don't have to be perfect. You don't have to go out and buy an expensive journal to be a journaler. You don't have to have a perfect fancy pen to be a journaler. Just grab what you've got. Um, whatever is available works for you. Even sometimes I will take discarded pieces of paper from my children's art projects and scribble out something if I need to write it down real quick. I'm also a huge fan of post-it notes. I have on the inside of one of my cabinets in my kitchen a whole bunch of post-it notes. Some of them are scripture verses, some of them are prayer intentions, some of them are ideas for things I want to write about in the future. And so if you come to my house, you might see my cabinet door post-it note journal, which also counts as journaling. You also don't have to even write to be a journaler. You have permission to draw. You can doodle. You can write a list. Um, you can write in a language that is not your first language or your second language. You can do journaling however it feels right to you, and that is something that has been very freeing for me. Again, on days when I've felt um, maybe overwhelmed by things, like a good solid list sometimes works better than big long paragraphs. Or even I remember once I was discerning something and I wrote the thing that I was discerning in the middle of the page, and then I wrote all the different things I felt sort of about it around, kind of like a mind map, if you remember that from like elementary school, or like word association. And that just helped me in that moment process what I was feeling that day. And it didn't solve everything for that one discernment, but it helped on that day. And then finally, the last tip I would offer are these two simple questions that I'll share on the next slide. If you're really feeling not sure about where to start, I would encourage you to start here. And if there's only one thing you write down tonight, I would encourage it for it to be this. Two centering questions that we can all come back to on days that feel crazy or hard or overwhelming, whether in a good way or a bad way. What is one good thing I can thank God for today? And then what is one hard thing I can invite God into? And these are questions that I actually use with my kids sometimes, especially what is one good thing I can thank God for. I really like that phrase, one good thing, because for me, I'm a really bad gratitude journaler because I have a hard time getting past being like, oh, I'm thankful for my house and my family, like all these big, wonderful things, which are good and wonderful blessings that I have. But sometimes those one little good thing um, that we experience can be even more profound moments of grace than, the big overall longer lasting things to be thankful for. And then one hard thing that I can invite God into, again, trying to keep it really simple and centering ourselves. There are a lot of hard things in the world right now, right? But what is one hard thing that's going on in my life that I can invite God into? How can I invite God to meet me there? And then how can I re-enter that situation knowing that I'm being accompanied by God and that I'm not alone in it? Are really beautiful, I think, and helpful for me. These are helpful questions for me as I'm thinking about starting my journaling practice, especially after a time away. All right. So there are three different types of journaling that I want to talk in a little bit more detail about tonight. And then the three prompts that I have prepared for you, there's one prompt that goes with each type of journaling, if that makes sense. So three different ways to journal, and then I'll give you a prompt for each one if one of these speaks to you and you'd like to try it in our time together in a little bit. And the first one is how to track spiritual data. So if you are kind of like that math and science person, if you really like hard facts, if you're a logical thinker, if you like reason and science, maybe you want to use your journal to track some spiritual data. And so if you're familiar with the Ignatian Examine, this is another great place for a journaling practice to come alongside an Ignatian practice and to pray the Examine on your own, however you would normally do that, and then make some notes about how it went for you that day. So maybe tracking some consolations and desolations, tracking some things, some habits that you want to try and break, or habits that you are happy to see, improving in your life. The Examine is a really great way for us to gather spiritual data, and then we can use our journal to track it and log it, and maybe even look back over a period of time and see movements of the Spirit, or see ways that we've been growing in our own spiritual journeys. There's also a lot of great ways that you could use your journal to make lists. And so Mary Beth and I, as we were preparing our evening together, I actually had this epiphany that I have a new list in my own journal, which I have titled Mom Wins. So I also have 3 little kids at home. And if you have ever had little children in your life, you know that not every day is a great day and that there are sometimes some really, really hard days. So instead of focusing on those, which it's really easy to do, focus on those failures, maybe not failures, it's a hard word, but those hard days. I've started a separate page in my journal, and it says Mom Wins across the top. And I write down just little good things that happen in our family life. Like tonight, everyone ate dinner tonight. It was amazing. Like they all ate dinner. It was awesome. So I'm absolutely going to add that to my Mom Wins later today. But sometimes it's a bigger thing. Like we went on a little field trip together and it was awesome, or they played nicely with each other and they didn't fight for 20 minutes, you know? So there are different ways to create even a gratitude list. So I guess that is kind of a gratitude list, but I've done it in my own way, in a way that speaks to me in my own season of life. And it's a lot of fun to look back on, again, on those hard days, to remember that it's not all hard. There's some real beauty and goodness going on in my personal season of life as well. And then maybe the last thing I would suggest for tracking spiritual data is maybe a prayer intentions list. I know a lot of friends ask me to pray for them all the time, and I have to confess, sometimes I forget to pray for them, which makes me feel really bad. But if I write it down, then I won't forget, right? So we can even write down like a full out prayer for that person, not just a list of names, but, you know, dear God, please bless so and so in this particular situation. Give them these things that I know that they need to make the situation better. And that's a really beautiful way to pray for someone. And again, maybe even going back to it later and seeing, you know, has that situation improved any for that person, or do you need to continue to pray for them? And if you're really close with that person, and they might appreciate it, you might even actually send them that prayer. Like, I wrote this prayer for you in my journal. You could write it out nicely on like a card and mail it to them. And that could be a really beautiful way to accompany someone, especially, you know, particularly through a hard time. So these are all different ways that we can use our journal to track spiritual data. But there's so much more we can do with our journal. I've got 2 other types of journaling to share with you that I have tried and enjoyed myself. The second way that we can journal, or I would encourage you to think about journaling tonight, is writing a letter to someone trustworthy. And this is, again, how kind of goes back to my own origin story as a journaler, I guess. It started as writing letters to my friend, and then sort of developed into writing to God. And for me personally, I feel comfortable writing to God. I don't usually say like, dear God, but you could. I just write as if I am writing to God in my journal. But you don't have to write to God. You could write to someone you know in real life, a family member, a friend, a loved one. You could write to someone who has passed away. You don't have to write to someone who's alive anymore. You could write to someone who's gone. Maybe someone you miss or someone you admire. You could write to them as a spiritual friend. You could write to a saint as a spiritual friend. I have a few saints who I consider to be my spiritual friends. I don't know if that makes me weird or normal in this crowd, but I would totally feel comfortable writing a letter to them in my journal, because I feel their presence in my life, and trust that they hear my prayers and intercede for me. So I say write a letter to someone trustworthy, because I really mean it. Think about who you trust in your life, whether it's someone you've met in person or not, whether it's someone who's alive or not, and consider addressing your journaling prompt to them. I find that this mode of journaling, or this type of journaling, is particularly helpful when my heart is really heavy and when I really just need to like let it out. So it's a great way to sort of vent on the page or get those big feelings out in a nice healthy way, and even invite someone kind of again alongside of you in those moments, and feel not so alone. I know. So journaling can be used to sort of empty ourselves, like let it out, unburden ourselves. But I also think journaling can be used to fill ourselves back up again. And again, if you are a parent, a caregiver, if you're in any sort of like ministry situation, you know how important it is to take care of yourself and fill yourself back up again so that you can give of yourself to others. So if that resonates with you, I would encourage you to think about this way of journaling, which I call create a response. So this involves encountering something first, and it might just be something that happened in your day. But it could be more intentional, like reading a passage from scripture, or reading a poem, or listening to a song, um, or reading a story, and then responding to that thing via your journal. And again, this is a great way to get creative. You don't have to write in full sentences to create a response. You could read a scripture passage and then write a poem in response, or you could read a poem and then draw something in response. But this is a great way to engage our imaginations in prayer, which is something else that's really wonderful and beautiful about Ignatian spirituality, that we are invited to bring our whole selves and especially our imaginations to prayer. So if you are familiar with that contemplative way of praying with scripture, where you sort of like imagine yourself in the story, you could create a response to that by writing down what you saw or what you heard or what you felt, what you observed as you were, walking with Jesus and the disciples in that moment, or listening to him preach. Um, so again, this is a great way if you're feeling a little depleted and like you want to fill yourself up. This is a great mode of journaling that I have found really helpful for my own Ignatian spiritual life. Right. I know I'm talking a little bit fast. I'm just really excited. And I also really want to make sure that you guys have, that we all have some time, because I brought my journal too, to dive into one of these prompts. So in a few minutes, I'm going to give everyone some time. You at this time will be absolutely welcome to turn off your camera. I'm going to mute myself just in case any rogue sounds come out. But we're going to just take some quiet time to try journaling in one of these three ways. So if that idea of tracking spiritual data really appealed to you, then I would encourage you to turn to a fresh page in your journal, totally blank, and start some sort of tracking page for yourself. Again, whatever feels right to you. Maybe it's a mom win page, or a dad win page, or a grandma win page, or an auntie win page, whatever. Or it's consolations and desolations for a particular situation you're discerning. Or you could start a page for prayer intentions if people have been asking you for prayers. And then don't just start that list, but really spend some time writing in, the first entry on that list. So if you're going to start a prayer intentions list, really write out that first prayer for that first friend who's coming to mind to you tonight. If you really liked that second mode of journaling, writing a letter to someone trustworthy, then do it. Go for it. If this is your first time journaling like this, then I would encourage you to start with dear so-and-so. Sometimes seeing their name on the page can really just trigger your brain to remember how much you love and trust that person, especially if there's someone who is no longer with us. Just seeing their name kind of brings them to life again a little bit in a way. And then you can just say whatever you want to them. Express your thoughts and feelings on a topic that is close to your heart. Whatever it is that you feel like you need to sort of let out or let go, or offer to that person tonight, feel free to put that onto the page. And then finally, if this idea of creating a response resonated with you, then I would encourage you to read the responsorial psalm from today's Mass readings. I think Mary Beth is going to put a link to that in the chat for you all. I mean, you can read whatever you want. If you've got a book of Mary Oliver poems right by you and you want to open that up, go for it. But I, in just trying to offer some ideas or suggestions tonight, today's responsorial psalm really resonated with me because I think there's a lot of ways to approach it, I guess. Or there's a lot of comfort there, whether you're in a good place in your spiritual journey or if you're in kind of a rough place in your spiritual journey. There's a lot of good stuff, and it's really short too, to kind of to get into. So maybe there'll be something, a line in there that speaks to you, and then you can create a drawing or a poem, or you can write a paragraph, or you could write a play. I mean, you can do whatever you want in your journal in response to that reading. Thank you for your bravery and willingness to participate live in a conversation like that. If anyone has a word or phrase that they would be willing to share in the chat for how their journaling experience went, Mary Beth and I would love to hear, because we had a nice little chat, just the two of us, but we weren't in any of your conversations. So I would love to know how it was for you. Oh, and beautiful. I already see some great things coming through. It was wonderful. Exhale. What a great word for journaling. I love that. Thank you. This is great. Hope. It's the year of hope. I love that. Expansive. Amazing. Relief. Yes. Sometimes it is such a relief just to get it on the page. It's wonderful. Flowing. Surprise that your issue came right to the surface. Anchoring. Oh, another great word. These are excellent words. As a writer and former English teacher, I really like your word choice tonight. This is excellent. So thank you one and all again for spending your Sunday night with us and being part of this experience. I really appreciate your willingness to be here, your presence and your enthusiasm. I've seen lots of head nods and smiles throughout my whole presentation. So I thank you for that. Beautiful, refreshing, and renewing. Excellent. I'm so happy. I'm so glad to hear that. If you'd like to stay in touch, I would love to stay in touch with you. Like I said at the beginning, I mostly hang out on Substack on the internet. That's my nerdy, happy place to be. And I write a publication there, a newsletter called Wonder and Awe, where about once a month, not exactly, but about once a month, I write an essay on the Catholic imagination, taking inspiration from the books that I'm reading or the songs that I'm listening to, or the art that I have seen in museums, just trying to capture those places where I have found God in all things. So you can find me at wonderandawe.substack.com, or you can follow me at Catherine Ann Sullivan on Substack as well. And really, that's the only place on the internet you can find me these days, because that's about all I can handle. And if you'd like to stay in touch with Mary Beth and her office, they have a lot of really awesome offerings and initiatives at the Office of Ignatian Spirituality.